Thank you so much for joining, Samuel, Reddy, and also Dr. Karthik. I'm extremely happy to be connecting with you today. Let's start with a quick introduction. So I'd like to know more about you. Sam, let's start with Sam. What's happening, Sam, and how is life in Australia? You are from Durban and you're in Australia. Must be quite a big change for you and your family. So what's happening there?
Well, it's good to come on board. This is Samuel Reddy and talking from Tari in New South Wales in Australia. Originally from South Africa, lived 12 years in Bangalore. And now my wife and myself, we're out here in Tari and we're serving in ministry. And we're just enjoying the community here in Tari, and we have a good running community as well.
Okay, that's good to know. It must be pretty exciting to stay connected with what you really like, Sam. I know you as a very inspiring endurance runner. You've done Comrades Marathon 13 times, and out of all the 16 times you participated, I've heard a lot of stories about your experiences, and certainly you're a great source of inspiration for all of us. For me personally, because I got introduced to the world of Comrades and the Durban and the wonderful hospitality of people like you living in Indian origin and also living in Durban. I've had some amazing experience. So really, thank you so much for supporting Alert and also by being the Global Voice Ambassador for the Alert and also for the ALERTATHON event. Dr. Karthik, how are you doing? I see some similarities. Born in India, then Singapore, and then in Australia. It's amazing to see.
Yeah. So I was born in India, in Pollachi, but my mom's from Pollachi, my dad's from Chennai. But then they were already working in Singapore at that point. So basically I was raised in Singapore my whole life, did all my studies in Singapore. Then in Singapore, as a male over the age of 18, you have to serve 2 years mandatory national service. So I did my army time in Singapore. Then in 2012, I went to Adelaide in Australia to do my 6 years of undergrad medicine. And from there, basically for my internship onwards, I've moved to Queensland. So I've been in the various parts in Queensland. And right now I'm in Rockhampton in Queensland, working in the main hospital here. Yeah.
So what exactly is your profession? As a doctor, what do you do? You're in the emergency medicine, general medicine?
So right now, I'm still a resident. So a resident means that you still you're one of the junior doctors in the hospital, but you still do various rotations in fields that you are interested in. And my area of interest is critical care medicine. So be it anesthetics, intensive care unit, or emergency medicine. So far I've done rotations in each. Currently I'm just doing this year in intensive care. My eventual goal is to try and aim to become an anesthetist. So therefore next year I'm going to try and get a more permanent job in anesthetics. So That is my goal at the moment. But right now it's still a bit of rotation, getting experience, just trying to get a part of it, understand everything. As much as you can about medicine, not everything. Yeah.
Okay, best wishes for that. And I think must be exciting times learning and also putting all those learnings into practice directly in a setup that you really enjoy doing it's simply amazing. Thank you so much. And of course, I'm also assuming that you both are in a very safe place, not affected by COVID. But of course,
it's pretty safe here.
It's pretty safe. All right. So now, coming back to your association with Alert, Alert is an NGO. They've been associated with the cause of saving lives, and I'm also a volunteer and also privileged to be the event director for this year's ALERTATHON event. This is going to be the first edition of ALERTATHON, which is going to have a global appeal. The cause is very common. Wherever you go across the world, accidents do happen, emergencies do occur. And of course, we've also heard a lot about how the victims or the person affected can be saved by the action of people who are very close to them, right? So the first responders. Now, the ALERTATHON's objective is to create more aware society. And I'm very happy and privileged to be connected with both of you, talking about the same cause. And all the three of us here are thinking about the same cause. How can we develop a more aware community? How can we go and spread the word in terms of learning the nuances of first aid and CPR? And then once you know the right procedures, what to do and what not to do, and then you're much more confident to handle and respond. And this is not specifically for doctors. Now, Dr. Karthik, one question to you now. From the point of view of doctor and from the point of view of first responder who's not medical professional, now, what do you see is the possibility? Now, we are talking about educating a common man into learning first aid. How easy it is? What is your point of view as a doctor?
Well, I think teaching somebody to learn to apply first aid, especially CPR, is a very important skill that everyone must have. Not necessarily that everyone's going to ever encounter a situation like that, or but the fact is, everyone, if they do encounter it, it's very vital that they are aware of what they can do. If someone falls unconscious in front of them, instead of, apart from calling ambulance, which is probably something that many people don't even think of sometimes, but that is included as part of the basic first aid, call for help. So it's very important for people to understand that, what needs to be done, the steps that need to be done. First of all, call for help, and then basically do the checklist, make sure they're not choking on anything, or make sure they are able to start compressions when they know they need to start compressions. And that could be very vital in just giving the person a possible chance to live. Sometimes if a person doesn't apply that, the person might as well, the heart might have stopped and the person might actually be dying right in front of you. But if you do apply that CPR, the chance of them returning back to circulation and possibly surviving and is very high. So I think it's extremely important that the average person at least knows, or as part of Alert's motto, and like at least one person in the family should know how to know CPR, know first aid. It's very important that it's very important that everyone knows basic first aid.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you so much. I think that's really important. Medical procedures are very different from reacting to an emergency and also calling for the right support, making sure that the person affected is not further worsening in terms of their impact and conditions. A question to Sam. You've been an endurance runner. You're from Durban. So what is your personal experience with emergencies? How do you think this is dealt in a place like Durban? And then I'm sure now you're very new to Australia. I don't think you're new to Australia. It's been 2 years now. So what do you see as a big difference? You also have been in India, Sam. So is there a way, it'll be great if you can just compare your experiences in India, in Durban, and also in Australia when it comes to ambulances and the emergency response mechanism, how it works.
Yeah, I think there's emergencies are not always, on time. We have that problem in South Africa, and I'm sure the same problem in India and around the world. They don't come immediately, so that's why it's really necessary for us to have the necessary skills, basic skills, to help immediately. And so, because of that, we did actually a course before we came to India. We did a primary health education course. It was over a number of weeks, and they taught us how to do CPR and other things that we can be able to monitor people while we're waiting for the emergency and the specialized people to come.
Okay, so you've seen that the struggle in the infrastructure, right? So even there are people with good intention want to help, and they call for the ambulance. The ambulance cannot reach on time because of traffic snarls or the issues in terms of the urban mobility. We talk about the congested streets, and so definitely that puts the responsibility on the people immediately around the victim to respond, stabilize, and then we know that the ambulance is going to come. We know that the person can be taken to the hospitals. But what you learn as first through the first aid program is what is that you're supposed to do, what is that you're not supposed to do as a common man, right? So I think this skill becomes absolutely important. So now, question back to Dr. Karthik. What are the opportunities for grown-ups? So there are two aspects to my question, right? How is first aid taught in the early stages of growing in the schools and the education systems? And you've seen in India and of course Singapore, you've studied there, you're also part of the army, and also in Australia. So what is happening in that area? Do you see that there is some effort taken in educating and preparing the little children about the emergency response mechanisms? And the second part of the question is, what are the opportunity for somebody to learn first aid and CPR in a country like Australia? Because now you know that in India, institutions like Alert is taking initiative going and helping people learn first aid and CPR. So what is happening in countries like Australia?
Well, the first part, the answer to the first part of the question, yes. Whilst when I was growing up in Singapore, there were sort of opportunities given, and there were lessons, not in the early stages of primary schooling or like early stages of high schooling, but more when you're further in your studies, like around 16, 17, they start teaching you about CPR and what needs to be done, the steps that need to be taken. But the only issue I saw with that is it was not a very recurring thing. So say you got taught when you were 16 or when you're grade 10. You possibly don't ever encounter it again until you go into your workplace after you've graduated from your high school, and maybe when you go into college, you might have a course, but it's not recurring. So I don't think there's too much. Unfortunately, there's not much of an emphasis on teaching first aid. There are external courses that they encourage you to do, like Red Cross's first aid courses, but in school, as such, they don't really teach it as much. In terms of in Australia, I'm not too sure about the schooling system here as to how they teach first aid, but from what I'm understanding is they are making more of an effort, and there are sort of external like first aid trainers who come to schools, and they do actually actively teach the basic first aid, especially calling for help or what needs to be done. Even basically, as simple as putting someone in the recovery position can make a huge difference. So simple things are being taught in school, but unfortunately, I feel like they could be taught a bit better. I mean, a bit more. It's a recurring thing, the yearly thing.
Yeah, that brings up an important opportunity and the problem, right? I have attended first aid training programs as part of my professional certification requirement to be a fitness trainer. Mm-hmm. And of course, the fitness certificate, the certification gets renewed, has to be renewed once in 2 years. And then, of course, I have to go and submit my credentials that, okay, I've attended first aid and CPR training. So the kind of the learning has to be regular. What I have learned is even though the first aid procedures are very simple, but we tend to forget that. It's really important that even though you take an initiative to learn first aid, it is not going to be helping you to kind of stay at the same level of skill and knowledge throughout your life. Because now we know that as a first responder, my hands are tied. I don't even know during the pandemic time, somebody is collapsing in the road. We don't know the real reason behind it. So we need to be more updated. A lot of changes happening. Even the CPR procedures have changed over a period of time. The American Heart Association has got new guidelines in terms of mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and chest compressions. I think that things are changing every day. And as it's a very important skill that all of us need to have as a common man, and then not just learning it once, but also staying in touch with it. Even though you're not going to be experiencing an emergency, I've seen some of my friends saying that, okay, I've learned first aid in probably 20 years back, and I've never seen an emergency. Well, that's really nice to know, but that doesn't absolve you from the responsibility to learn the first aid now, stay more current with the sequence of events. So now,
exactly.
I wanted to ask both of you this question. So what does being a global voice ambassador for Alert and ALERTATHON mean to you personally? Sam?
Well, I'm just thankful for the opportunity to come on board and be able to learn and understand what is happening so far as what's going on in India, and then to see how we can promote that here in Australia, the different activities that we are involved in. So it's an honor and a privilege, and we trust that we will take this thing forward.
Thank you very much, Sam. Dr. Karthik?
Well, so my aunt, was one of the founders for Alert in general. So when she first started it, I was always very interested in what she was doing. Always thought it was a great idea and always wanted to be involved in some manner. But now, unfortunately, since I'm not in India, now I'm overseas, the opportunity has been extended to me via this to be a Global Voice Ambassador to contribute and be actively part of this program. And it's a great honor to just be part of it and try and raise awareness about just helping the community back at home in India. And at the same time, just even locally, if those who are involved in it are getting more aware that they themselves need to know that they have to sort of refresh to be more involved and learn more about first aid. I think it's a great event that I'm glad to be part of. And I think personally, I feel that being part of Global Voice Ambassador, I'll be able to reach out and help more people than I would actually just be going day to day to the hospital. So I feel like it's a great way for me it's a great initiative for me to be part of. So I'm really happy about that.
There is an indirect benefit to doctors promoting emergency response. And I think when the patients arrive at critical care facilities or emergency rooms, the condition is much more stable than what it could have been if they were properly supported soon after the incident has occurred. I think it's a great way to look at kind of de-stressing the medical system. If we have more and more first aid aware citizens, it can definitely de-stress the medical system. One last question to both of you. We know that ALERTATHON is going to happen. The event window is between 9th to 13th of September. And incidentally, 12th of September is also the World First Aid Day. So this event couldn't have been timed better. Now, question to both of you. So what are you planning to do? Because as an ALERTATHON participant, also voice ambassador, you can run, you can walk, you can ride. What are you planning to do during those 5 days?
Well, I don't. I'll let Sam go for it. I'm not sure if,
Okay, I plan to run the kilometers at each day, maybe 10 kilometers. And then I like to cycle as well because I have a bike that I can cycle with. So I'll do a bit of cycling and running, and then I'll also do some walking. So I'll do all three. I'll walk with my wife because I do walk with my wife. So we'll do all three.
Lovely, Sam. So it's certainly happy to have you on board. And Dr. Karthik, I missed your update. So what are you planning?
So I'm going to be running. I love running. So I'm going to try and get as much running as possible. I don't own a bike, unfortunately. So that's out. But definitely walking and running. There's a really nice, couple of beautiful national parks near my house. So doing some walking and running.
Okay, I think the weather is also beautiful in Australia now. Must be sunny. I was talking to Sam yesterday, and I could see blue sky and the sunny day. All right,
it's amazing at the moment.
Well, Samuel Reddy and Dr. Karthik, thank you so much for joining me for this ALERTATHON T20. And I'm really happy to have you on board. Once again, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. Best wishes